As I said in the introductory video, Atwood builds The Handmaid's Tale on the structure, on the ground plan of an actual place, of the environs of Harvard University, and a particular neighborhood in Cambridge, Massachusetts, a very upscale, old and beautiful neighborhood. It's set in late spring and early summer, the part of the limited time of the year that Cambridge, Massachusetts is gorgeous. It's nice and sunny. May is very nice in Cambridge, Massachusetts. The winter hellscape recedes and it just becomes humid and fabulous. Not far from a place where, she herself began graduate studies at Radcliffe in the early 60s when even the graduate students were consigned to the women's institution. Didn't get a doctorate, got an MA. And she uses real details, both general details of kind of what it's like to live in certain kinds of old Cambridge houses that have gone through a lot of architectural changes, and we can Google map the walk of some of these characters. That first shopping trip takes a very specific path, and I want to talk about that specific path and some other locations in this video. First, general things. One of the greatest, Atwood makes great use of the blind chandelier hub in Offred's room. This, I suspect, is the kind of thing you do see in a lot of older houses in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and there are a lot of older houses in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and nearby inner ring suburbs of Boston. There are a lot of houses that just used to have chandeliers in a lot more rooms, and they've been taken away because they're not practical. But there is a kind of plaster hub sometimes, like the one Offred describes, with like fruit and vegetation, a decorative hub up there in the plaster that you didn't take out. Because why would you take that out? Why would you tear up your entire ceiling to make it less pretty? Atwood, in an inspired way, makes that, you actually often see blind hubs like this in these houses. Atwood makes it something where, okay, a plot point where the handmaid's room has recently had the chandelier taken away because of the previous occupant's suicide, and Offred suspects that from the beginning and is proved correct later. So a bit of ingenuity about the housing stock and that nice detail. The kind of description of lovely brick houses, big gardens, stuff like that, all pretty accurate to Cambridge, Massachusetts, probably as Atwood remembered it. Offred of Glen take a walk. They're coming down Brattle Street in Cambridge, Massachusetts, an old moneyed street. It has a bunch of old pre-revolutionary houses. There's a section called Tory Row. There are two things that are being left out. This is a novel about historical erasure, and one of the ways we have to read it is figuring it out for ourselves what this world has removed from our world, like Offred's name, like Harvard University's name. The novel is set fairly near some important revolutionary historical sites on which it does not comment. The cemetery on Mass Ave that the two characters visit includes the graves of Revolutionary War dead. More importantly, they're very near the site of the place where George Washington originally took command of the Continental Army in 1775 when they were besieging Boston. The army was in Cambridge, outside Boston. This is where George took over, and there's a hotel nearby with a statue of George Washington called the Sheraton Commander. So the name Commander, this is a less important, or a thread I'm less sure of, but I suspect there's something with the word commander here and this kind of vestigial Washington connection. The direction from which our two handmaids are coming walks by Washington's old headquarters, the very nice pre-revolutionary big house in which he set up his field headquarters in 75 and 76. It's now known as the Longfellow House because later the poet Longfellow owned it. Pretty nice gigs, Henry. That is not mentioned. That is erased. More importantly, what's erased, as the characters approach Harvard Square, they would pass, on their left, Radcliffe Yard, which goes unmentioned. The center, the administrative and teaching center of the old women's college attached to Harvard University. In a way, a temple of female education and learning, which which the two characters don't remark on, don't remember. It is elided. It is erased. They are missing that. Um, when Harvard and Radcliffe colleges were the undergraduate institutions were very distinct. The female dorms were further up north in a separate section, and the classrooms were in Radcliffe Yard, a kind of smaller enclosure. They walked by that. They passed the Brattle Theater, a real place, which Offred associates with historical memory. She looks at a kind of revival house where they had a kind of Humphrey Bogart festival every spring. That place did have a Humphrey Bogart festival every spring for several decades. They moved to a grocery store, a grocer, at the site of a series of real grocers in Harvard Square. I've had to do some research on this. I've double checked. And then they turn up Church Street, actual name. They walk up it towards Harvard Square proper and to Harvard Yard. They turn at the church, now a very politically liberal church. The last time I was there, which was last month, there was a Black Lives Matter flag flying outside it, but which is imagined as having returned to its Aboriginal colonial Puritan roots and become a museum for the Puritans. There's the cemetery, there's churchyard. These places are all there. To their right is the heart of where they go to see the Soul Scrolls later, is the heart of Harvard Square, the commercial district. And they're looking straight at Harvard Yard, which is imagined here as having a brick wall all the way around it. Not true, it's just fencing. But, we'll give this to both poetic license and to Atwood's memory. It's more frightening if it's just a brick wall all the way around. This is a movement, and the secret police are inside Harvard. Like the reactionaries have not only taken over the place of small L liberal higher education and destroyed the university and replaced with a secret police. There's also a sense that they are the intellectual class themselves have done it, that they are to blame for this, that the eyes are in there because of the Sons of Jacob think tanks, because of people like the commander, Fred himself. Other things that get mentioned, we get a description of the library, of the main library, Widener Library, and the murals. There's specific murals by John Singer Sargent. Google John Singer Sargent, Sargent, murals, and Harvard Library, and you'll get the kind of victory and death image. It's still there. It's Sargent's, but then done better work in my opinion. But there's a description here of those actual artworks. We can compare this to kind of Dick's kind of description of a known artwork. Atwood plays the same game, and then of course there's the scene of the particution at the climax of the novel, which happens between the chapel and the library, i.e. in the area where graduation used to be. And man, at that point, has Offred graduated? Holy cannoli, has she? These places are real, but they're also elided, and Offred can't quite remember everything. And they're places associated with history and memory, contested sites of history. Offred is missing some of them. Later they go down to the river. Oh, by the way, when they have, I think, the kind of group marriage, that happens at a place. They have actually placed a sign over the name of some president who got killed. That would be John F. Kennedy. John F. Kennedy's name has also been erased. If you can erase John F. Kennedy's name in Boston, Massachusetts, you've done a thorough job of historical revision.